apologize. I know I scheduled it. Um, I also apologize if the streaming quality is really bad. I never know how the internet's going to be, and I just can't tell on this end of things. So I hope if you guys got to check out my Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram video that you dug it. I put a lot of work into it. 8 hours of video, or 8 hours of editing, and it was still not really perfect. Um, but I think there's a lot of really useful stuff in there. Uh, and so I wanted to hop on and talk about. Whoa, what's up? Is the is the sound quality really bad still? I'm not sure what's going on with that. I think it's the satellite. Yo, how's the sound quality? Anybody can you let me know if? Because I tried to use the. Okay, it sounds a little better. Yeah, okay, so it's still shitty, but not as shitty. Yeah. I figured out that if I use the shitty camera, I have more data, I think, available for the audio. So that's how that's my genius. Okay, so hello guys. I hope you got to check out the LBRP video. If not, please do. I put a lot of work into it. I also just uploaded the demonstration segment for the patrons only. That turned out pretty well too. I'm pretty pleased with this stuff, honestly. And so I guess I know who all of you are, so we might as well just do an update first. The last couple of days, man, I've been sick as fucking hell again, and I am really unhappy about it because I was feeling better. I thought, okay, the medication's working, things are getting better. So super frustrating to wake up like. I mean, I'm not trying to be depressing, but like wanting to die, honestly, just like I just can't keep doing this. It's been years now that it's just been getting worse and worse, and so that's a bitch. And we basically run out of money again. We borrowed some so that we could get the tests and the medication, but I had to take the medication for 30 days before I can come back and get the test. By the time I finished the medication, we've lived off of the money because we don't have any other income. So it's just driving me absolutely nuts. And by the way, I appreciate all your support. A lot of you guys have really helped keep the boat afloat so far, but we still have a long ways to go. I have to address these health problems. We're still trying to get out into the jungle with the Warani. I'm definitely going August 3rd, at least for a few days. I mean, it's an amazing opportunity, you guys. The Warani language is the third least studied in the entire world. I mean, I've told you guys a million times, you know, it doesn't really even bear repeating, but I was studying this band. These are the grandchildren of the people that killed those missionaries that I was reading about as a child, you know. It's just really incredible that we just sort of were just dumped right into their laps. And so I'm hoping also that I can heal there because they have an encyclopedic knowledge of, you know, the plants, the healing plants here. And it's going to be amazing, you know, to drink ayahuasca with an uncontacted shaman. The men from this tribe don't go to town. We only ever see the women. So yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that we only have another month and a half here, then we have to go somewhere else, no matter what, whether we end up in the jungle with the Warani or not. So I guess the bullet point of this presentation is that even though I was kind of hesitant, almost embarrassed to create another GoFundMe, we made two. Because I really feel like I am working for the collective. Everything I do is in the interest of the collective, you know. I mean, and to have an opportunity to go and work with uncontacted tribe or barely contacted tribe and learn their language and hopefully get some exposure. Somebody gave me the idea of actually contacting Vice and maybe some other webzine type organizations. Maybe we can get some real funding and maybe even like a camera crew to come and make a real documentary out of the situation. So, you know, we're doing everything we can to try to monetize it and to maximize exposure because the Warani are, I think, an underserved, like the most underserved population in the Amazon, one of them for sure, and probably one of the greatest treasures because they're uncontacted. They are unconquered. They were not conquered by the Shuar and they were never conquered by the missionaries. They just killed them. No, man, and like I said, you know, like in the case of the Warani, I feel like I'm not an academic, but I don't care. Anyone that goes in there and learns the language that no one outside of the tribe speaks and documents that and preserves it, along with whatever other traditions they're willing to share. And that's basically their thing. The Waorani resistance right now is basically about um, inviting outsiders, opening up to outsiders. Good evening, Susan. Um, Opening up to outsiders so that they can get their message out. And so I feel like, the universe has basically been preparing me for this my entire life. And this is the culmination of this healing process. I think, from I don't want to say commercial, but let's say from a conservation and appreciation point of view, if I am able to go in there with the Warani and they're able to help me when modern medicine has failed, I don't mind having been sick for 3 years. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't be one bit surprised um, if that happens. So, so yeah, we're making two separate GoFundMe's, one for my health and one to try to fund the trip into the jungle to see the Warani because we need to make a contribution to the community and also just to survive ourselves. And to, when we come out of the jungle, we have to go somewhere. So that's the plan. We're also trying to get back home to the United States within maybe like the next 3 months or so. My bass player is still willing to work with me. I feel like I just need to pick up where I left off. I realized that I basically, when my mom committed suicide, I think I had some sort of equivalent of a nervous breakdown, and I just walked away from my life. And it's just like it just hit me the other day. I was laying in bed and I was like, "Holy shit, what have I done? I got to go back and and it's not too late. And it's really not. It's just going to be really difficult." Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And I feel like there is, and it's frustrating that we haven't made more progress. I guess I'm just not social media savvy, or, people suggested that I look at some of my contemporaries, and I'm not going to name any names, but I tried that, and I turned on one of them, and I caught him just as he's talking about Aleister Crowley, and he says, man, when you're tripping really hard and there's those like wavy lines in the air, that's what as above, so below means, man. I think Aleister Crowley said that like 50 years ago. So I've got my little notepad. I'm like, okay, so make sure you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That's the first step in YouTube success, apparently. And then I switched to another one, and it was just like the guy was like talking to his audience like they were like mentally disabled 4-year-olds. And I'm like, okay, so be extremely condescending. And I can't do that. Hey, thanks, man. I'm not trying to rip on people, man, but that's how I felt. I was like, what the hell, man? Why are these guys so huge? And it's not, I don't see their reason. I'm not trying to be a player hater. So, okay, so I promised to talk about the difference between Freemasons, Shamans, witches. I don't even know what else was in the list, but all these type of people. Really, there is no difference. And that's only sort of true, but really it's just the devil in the details. There's the fundamental practices in magic are actually extremely similar to the point where it's really it's too much to dismiss. And I think that what it's really suggesting is this same idea that I've had since I was a kid, that there is some metaphysical reality that is just as objective as the physical world. That the wiring under the board is the wiring under the board. When you take the lid off, it's going to look the same to anyone. And how you interpret and speak about what you're looking at may vary, but I think when you're looking at real spiritual truth, which is different from Mick religion, right? You have these consistencies because everyone is looking at a real thing, right? I mean, the circle, okay, let's start there. The protective circle that represents the universe of the magician, or the boundary, the protective barrier between the people in the circle and the external world, the unified will of the people within the circle. And there's so many layers of meaning and symbolism in the circle, right? Because it continues forever and ever and ever, right? You can go around and around and around, you never get to the end. I mean, there's a lot. And but the point is that whether you're talking about a hermetic magician doing the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, or an ayahuasquero casting a circle, or Huacumero, or the druids at Stonehenge, or the Navajo having us pipe the what do they call it, when they were powwow. I don't know if that's actually what the Navajo called it, but when they're sitting and thinking, that having a tribal discussion and using the tobacco to focus the mind in a circle, 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 circle. Um, Another thing that you'll find that is ubiquitous is the singing, the vibration that compels particles and energy to symmetry and order. I've I talk a lot about light and how I've had these visions that and it's not just the visions. I mean, physics already has some indications of this kind of thing, but I'd realized that light was the uh, uh, somehow generating consciousness, and the problem that I ran into was trying to figure out how it is that consciousness, by what mechanism does consciousness compel anything to do anything? And then I was laying in bed a few weeks ago and I realized, you idiot, it is electromagnetic energy. And so electromagnetic energy is actually kind of a blanket term that refers to a whole set of different um, energies and properties of things. Um, but it's still this idea of vibration causing attraction, causing um, repulsion, uh, to compel things to. I mean, if you've seen when pitches are vibrated on the aluminum, I can't remember what that's called, but the sand, they put the sand on the aluminum and they vibrate it, and these really, really highly detailed geometric forms will come up out of the sand. Um, so this is ubiquitous. The drumming, you know, any type of altered states, the plant use is almost ubiquitous. The only places in the world where shamans or healers don't use psychoactive plants are places where they're not available. Um, and I think that this is not any kind of like new idea, but I think that it's really, if you look around the world, the only places where we have like really fucked up cultures that are just totally dysfunctional and toxic are where these plants are not available. In the Western world, I mean, we're fixing that. Yeah, do smash the like button, guys. And keep an eye out for the symmetry, the synergistic systems, spiritual systems channel, because I'd have to relaunch so that I can I can monetize again, because this is our mission. We have to make our living off of social media, and man, has that been a crazy roller coaster of a ride getting that figured out. Okay, so but I mean, differences, like, really, I almost can't even think of any. Um, Freemasons, contrary to a lot of popular belief, partly because Freemasons will deny this. I wish I still had this phone because I have video of bookshelves in Masonic temples, and I mean, I'm not really allowed to. I'd probably do it anyways at this point, though, just to like make a point. But there's nothing but books about magic and the occult in those temples, and they will officially they'll say, we're not an occult organization, but they're absolutely magicians. They wear robes, they chant. There are knocks, which is similar to the drumming, and it's a syncretic tradition. Basically, Freemasonry is about drawing on every available tradition. As you move up through the ranks in Freemasonry, you will study all kinds of different world traditions. One of the degrees is about contemplation of light specifically. Later on, there's a focus on numbers and numerology. But what I really like about Freemasonry, and another thing that it has in common with shamanism, is that they do not like superstition, and neither do I. And so the designation between superstition and I guess what I would think of as like objective metaphysics, like the real stuff, is that numerology from a Masonic perspective is about looking at the number 9 and how it functions. For example, any multiple of 9 added to itself and all of these crazy things that 9 does. And so, for example, if you're going to use 9 in the context of gematria, which is the Jewish mystical system of assigning numbers to letters and then adding phrases together and then comparing the numerical values to find phrases and words that have a relationship, 9 is going to always tell the truth, because when you multiply 9 by 9, no matter what you have, it reduces to 9 again. And so that's the kind of functional metaphysics. The truth is self-substantiating. And so it's observation and demonstration of real functionality that is giving us a deeper understanding of the universe. We're not making subjective interpretations of phenomena and coming up with weird ideas about them, which is basically what superstition is. What is this? Sinner what? Did I miss something? I feel like I missed something there. So yeah, and it's funny, I'm talking about 9, and there's 9 people watching, and there are 9 likes. And here's another great example of that. And this is something that Fish, I think, wrote a song about it called "Backwards Down the Number Line." And in my case, I started noticing 2 11s. 1111 was like the craziest shit was happening around these numbers. And it wasn't just like, people talk about you're thinking something and you always see this number. Like, that's legitimate. I really think it is. It's the kind of idea that I would normally kind of respond to as like, this new age fluff, it's pop culture nonsense. But the experiences that I've had around it really very strongly suggest otherwise, to the point. In fact, I've recorded it. I know a lot of you guys are regular watchers, and I don't want to be redundant. But I did the Phoenix process video at 11:11. If you click on 11:11, you'll hear 11:11 come out of my mouth, and I'm literally talking about coincidences involving that number. That's what the sentence around the 11:11 is, right? That's how it is. And I finally figured out what it meant after a while and why it happened. And this is how these things are discovered, I think. But the 11:11 is symmetry. 111 is symmetry. 4 11s is like symmetry, and it also implies the tetragrammaton of the 4 elements and a sort of universality of symmetry, right? It's symmetry in consciousness. And I realized from there that consciousness imposes order upon the chaotic primordial energy. The mechanism is electromagnetic energy, and the format basically is symmetry. It organizes, order is produced by symmetry that is imposed by this electromagnetic energy. And of course, with the electromagnetic energy, even though we have a label for it, we're still kind of in a chicken and the egg situation. I don't think all the paradoxes are necessarily resolvable. I don't think they're supposed to be. The existence of the universe is contingent, synergistic something. Oh, right. No, I haven't actually launched the channel yet. It's going to be synergistic spiritual systems. And my goal basically is that, on this channel, I tend to use a lot of profanity, and I will insult certain groups of people sometimes, and I will say political stuff, and I just want to maintain my ability to have some kind of platform to actually say what I think. And synergistic spiritual systems is going to be a little bit more family friendly, and I'm not going to offend anyone and alienate anyone. So this is going to remain like my living room fireplace, talking shit with the boys kind of vibe. And the other channel is going to be my like monetized, careful not to get demonetized again, don't alienate anybody and fucking shrink your audience by 2/3 like I did in 2020, So, I have to make some kind of concessions to survive, I guess, and so I'm going to try that. And for most of you guys, it'll be kind of pointless at first, because I'm just going to move all of the content that is appropriate for the other channel from this one, and then I'm going to make other, and then eventually I'll probably do a lot less on this channel. Okay, so the difference between a Freemason and a shaman, you might say, is that a shaman uses psychoactive plants and a Freemason doesn't. Are you sure about that? There are reasons why the lower order, particularly the third degree, which is just nothing but like Christian businessmen, usually normal people, that 99% of the lodge never makes it past the third degree, and there's a reason for that. There are lots of reasons for that, and part of it is honestly just a smokescreen. Um, and So you guys know about acacia. It contains DMT. Do you think that it is a coincidence that magicians are putting the leaves of a plant that contains DMT on the graves of of Masons when they die? You know what I mean? No. The acacia is sacred to the Masons because Freemasonry traces back to, I mean, it goes back earlier, but it goes back to the Eleusinian mysteries and other mystery schools where we know that soma and other drinks that definitely contain some kind of psychoactive constituents were consumed. So, nope, those magicians also consume psychoactive plants. It's just that in the case of Freemasonry, it's a 33rd degree thing that most of the lower degrees would laugh in your face if you told them about that. But then, you might say to them, well, then why is acacia sacred to you? Do you even know? you know? Well, no. Okay, so where else can we go with that? Okay, so the difference between black magic and white magic is something that is a subject of a lot of debate amongst people. Aleister Crowley, who is widely regarded as a black magician, once said that any operation that has any other purpose than to connect the magician to his holy guardian angel or higher self is black magic. Or it tends to become black magic, not that it absolutely is. And I think that kind of what he was saying there is that the temptation to abuse these powers or the lack of facility that can lead to just becoming sort of overwhelmed by capacities of consciousness that we don't have the ability to navigate, so things will become a mess. But really, black magic is the will to do damage to some other person, place, or thing, and that is it. Generally, the way that this is understood is that the left-hand path, and this is another one of those crazy similarities that is just too weird to explain, but in the jungles of Borneo or here in South America, a black magician or a sorcerer is turning to the left, and one that works for the collective well-being and is a healer is turning to the right. So in the Western mystery tradition, we have the left-hand path and we have the right-hand path. And there is a crossroads that every magician and I think every person eventually will come to this intersection. And this is where Hermes or Thoth or the devil is waiting to offer to make a deal. And so you have to decide whether you're going to take the left-hand path or the right-hand path. Are you going to live in the interests solely of yourself, or are you going to commit your energy, your consciousness, your words and deeds to the well-being of the collective? And yeah, I mean, we're unified consciousness, for sure. And I think the more that you are in that frequency, the more that you're aligned with that, the more that you're open to it, the more that you're exposed to it, the more consistent these kind of experiences are. In fact, in my life, when I'm really, really, drinking medicine on a regular basis and really attenuated, these sort of experiences of extremely improbable synchronicities and precognitions and all that kind of thing are just that they're the rule, not the exception to the rule. It's this sort of natural state of the universe. In fact, I was worried for quite some time that I had come to a dead end, like spiritually and philosophically. Like, where am I going with this now? Is this it? I've made a lot of progress. I've figured out a lot of things. I've made a lot of changes. I've inspired a lot of people, but where is it going from here? And So luckily, I guess there are still little innovations like I realized the thing about electromagnetic energy the other week, and the other day I realized that I've kind of been making a mistake, uh, and I mean it's not exactly a mistake, but it's like I have this focus on changing the consciousness of an entire planet, and I don't mean like me doing that alone, but that is our general gestalt. That's where we're going with all of this. And that psychedelics and other means of inducing gnosis were a way to catalyze this type of consciousness in people reliably, and so that was our answer. And it's not that I've changed my mind about that, but I realized that maybe more importantly, and the indigenous cultures have a lot to do with this realization, with their lack of prisons and rape and theft and, murder and just. I mean, I live in an indigenous community now. There are thousands of people here. It's small, but it's not that small. There are no cops. There are no crime. You know what I mean? Like, there are unisex bathrooms with multiple stalls. Like, people just aren't psychotic, and it's because the influence of modern society has not been so. You know what I mean? The tendency of all systems is to achieve homeostasis, and so all systems means all systems. The same natural laws are coming to bear on everything from civilizations to individual people and societies. Well, civilizations, you know what I'm saying. So what that means, I think, is that if humans were placed in an environment that didn't have this toxic, unnatural imbalance, that we would find homeostasis just like every other system in nature. I mean, it's not really debatable. And so I just thought that was a really powerful realization, that somebody told me the other day that they thought that in the golden age everyone was enlightened. I don't think that that's true, but I think what they were saying, and what is probably true, is that when we have a society that is that has developed in accordance with natural law and is guided by some degree of gnosis, you don't have the kind of mess that we have on this planet now. And again, it's not that it's utopia, and this is something that I see a lot on like Instagram and stuff. People are like, if everyone drank ayahuasca, there would never be another war. And it's like, well, ayahuasca drinking tribes still occasionally spear each other. So shut up, I mean, we don't need to oversell ayahuasca. It does amazing, miraculous things for people. But we don't need to exaggerate. It's, that's obviously not true. It's not real. But on the other hand, are they healthier overall? Is it much closer to a utopia than modern society? Hell yeah, it is. I mean, there are no prisons, there are no jails. Extreme crimes within communities are pretty much totally unheard of. You guys, chimpanzees go to war, ants go to war. Creation and destruction is part of the natural order. I don't think that some occurrences of violence and disharmony are really unnatural. But the way that we are doing things now is definitely unnatural. I'm really glad, by the way, to see how many people are starting to talk about the fact that Afghanistan and all of the wars that the United States engages in nowadays, they go on forever, and then the United States withdraws without winning. Why? Because it's only about selling bullets and tanks, treads, and bombs, and supporting the military-industrial complex. That is it. That is all. And you don't need a fucking crystal ball to see that. Let's see. Sorcerers, shamans, a wizard. Now, this is an interesting thing because in the Western occult tradition. Um, Remember earlier I quoted Crowley saying that any operation other than the magician establishing conversation, knowledge, and conversation with his higher genius or holy guardian angel or whatever, however you want to term it, tends to deviate towards black magic. Um, Iwas in the Book of the Law told Crowley, your proof will be your success. And there is a mountain of, whether you like him personally or not, the evidence that Crowley achieved some level of genius that is preternatural, if not supernatural, is absolutely overwhelming. I mean, even people that hate him generally admit that, that there's nothing like that anywhere. And so, even forget about Crowley, just the idea that what you were trying to do really in Western occult practices is expand your consciousness and make contact with genius. Genie also, the etymology, it implies that this genius that we are connecting with is spiritual in nature. And, my understanding of spirit really is just that consciousness is an all-pervasive sort of unified field, that we have an illusory perspective of having a singular vantage point, that, what did Terence McKenna say? A single ego is an absurdly narrow vantage point from which to view the universe. It is true, but we're not really limited to that. And so the idea is that we are able to access not our genius necessarily. I mean, our genius is one element of it, but that we're able to access the universal mind, and that genius is not something that a person possesses somewhere in their brain, that it is a connection to a greater source of perspective and information and maybe even computational power. And, I think that this is such a fundamentally true thing that human beings just know it. Because if you think about it, your common person doesn't think, well, if you ask them what is a magician, they won't say, well, it's a person that is trying to connect with their genius. That's not what most people think of. Even people that think of ritual magic, they're thinking of someone who is trying to impose their will upon people or events and cause them to conform to their expectations or desires, right? But in reality, if it's not a black magician, their fundamental purpose is to connect to this genius so that they can be a hollow tube to bring down fire from heaven and illuminate their fellow men. And, I believe since I was 15 years old, and like the second time I ate mushrooms, this voice told me, that there's like a net of consciousness, and when one of the little units of it's like a human consciousness is like a concentrated node of this electromagnetic energy. And so we manifest as humans in this like network of nodes, right? Just like a computer node network, of course. It's the same exact thing, except in a different form. As above, so below, right? Keter is in Malkut, Malkut is in Keter, but in another form. That when one of those individual units has some kind of epiphany that is new, it drags the whole net of consciousness forward with it. So, society only moves by the light of genius. The herd will be destroyed in mass, is another line from the Book of the Law. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing. There's a lot of excess, a lot of unnecessary, what do the conspiracy theorists say? The Illuminati called them useless eaters. But we're getting a little bit off subject there. What I was saying is that, this idea of a wizard as a genius, when someone's really good at something, they say, wow, he's a wizard, or he's a whiz kid, or, but people don't even know that that's what a wizard is, someone that's trying to connect to their higher genius. So why do people say that? And my suspicion is that these things actually kind of like bubble up through the subconscious, that, as Terence McKenna said, if the truth can be told so as to be understood, it will be believed. the reason for that is that everyone already knows it. And that was a theory that, was actually kind of popularized by Timothy Leary. He was saying that every bit of information that's ever happened all the way back to the Big Bang is recorded in every one of our cells. And now, of course, we have the 0 point field theory, which, even some physicists have bought into, that says that every exchange of energy is actually recorded in a sort of field. And so the support that not only is this old idea that the magicians have always put forth, and shamans and, druids and whatever else, this is always what it's been about, that there is this universal mind, that there is this higher order of consciousness that we can download from, or that we can link to and extract relevant bits of information that are actually true and valid, and that oftentimes result in the actual evolution of the entire race of humanity. And so that's what a Nikola Tesla is, that's what an Einstein is, that's what a Jerry Garcia is, that's what an Aleister Crowley, Bob Dylan. I can think of quite a few of them that I would identify as these primum mobiles or prime movers, these individuals that are towing the net of consciousness forward on behalf of the collective. So, questions, comments? I don't know. It's getting late. I should probably tune out. Please do hit the like button, share, subscribe, support us on Patreon. There's a link for the PayPal and Zelle. We really do need extra support. I still am trying to get my health together. I need more tests. I need to go to doctors. So, if you can help us out, we really do appreciate it. I really do feel like we're going to do something meaningful in the jungle with the Warani. So if that's the kind of thing you support. Also, if you guys know, if you have any media connections or you know anyone that I should talk to, feel free to email me, because I'm really trying to make the most of this situation on behalf of the Warani and my own interests, because this kind of situation where there are people that have, I was talking about how we are so disassociated from the natural systems that we've lost our homeostasis, and that's not true of these Warani here. So I feel like the opportunity for me to go and drink ayahuasca with them and live amongst them for a while and document it all it's absolutely mind-blowing, fucking incredible. So either way, though, I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you guys again soon.